Hello, welcome back to the channel. Oh shoot, what is that? That's better. But what is that? Well, that's called a Grisaille, and that's our video today. Let's take a look. Before seeing my version, simply put, a Grisaille is a painting method where the artist limits their palette to neutral shades and tints of one color, such as gray. As a technique, the Grisaille has been around for hundreds of years. While there's many benefits to painting in the Grisaille technique, some of the most popular ones are it's cost effective in that the artist only needs a limited amount of colors, the educational means in that it aids the artist in understanding the values, and then finally it's a viable option for those who have color blindness. Now let me introduce you to the four colors we'll be using for this piece. As with most Grisailles, they're done in gray and neutral tones. There's no better way to accomplish that than with Williamsburg's natural gray set. Ever since I've received these as a gift, I thought there would be no better purpose. As with most of my work, I generally like to start with a toned canvas, or in this case a 10 by 10 panel. This is just washed over with a burnt sienna mixture with a little bit of Gamsol to thin it out, and it's generally applied so that the colors read correctly on the canvas. I've also taken the liberty to mark off a few lines on our panel. We don't need an overall sketch for this scene because it is quite simple. However, we're still looking for a good composition. So we've marked off the rule of thirds. Our bottom line will be the horizon. Our vertical line will be roughly where the sun will lie. And with the rule of thirds, anytime you can have a focal point intersect the vertical and horizontal line, it lends itself to a good composition. Now typically I would tape off any horizon line that I'm planning on painting, but for whatever reason I decided not to do it this time. It winds up coming back and biting me in the butt a little bit, and I do tape it on the second go around, but my advice and a quick tip to everyone, go ahead and tape off that line with some good painter's tape. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier. Now that we've got our horizon line marked off with the medium colors to our 4-pack color, it's time to start building up the clouds on the lower horizon. For this, I used a combination of the 3rd to 2nd colors on our scale. These clouds are going to be not quite as dark as the upper clouds, but they still need to be darker than the bottom of the horizon. Here I've taken the same color as our horizon tone, and I'm basically establishing the bottom of our darkest clouds. That way I can build the in-between areas between the horizon clouds and the upper darker clouds. If you recall from the rule of thirds, we're now going to be putting in our brightest area of the scene. This is looking pretty white here, but it's actually the lowest color on our color palette. It's still gray, still neutral, but not quite as bright as just a typical white. But I'm going to start building out this sun area. It is going to be a little obstructed from the lower level clouds, but as you can tell, it really starts to brighten up the painting once you add the lighter tones into the mix. Finally, time to build up our clouds. These are the darkest clouds in our picture. In fact, it's the darkest color we'll have in the entire picture. As this is just a block in, we're just going to be looking for general shapes and color. Later on we'll come in and we'll detail this out. The rest of our sky is just going to be a gradient from where the sun is as our lightest all the way to the top, which will be the darkest of the sky color. There's a little bit of a transitional area where some clouds, some lighter clouds are misting across, but as you can see from the reference photo, there's not a lot to it. And the final step of this block in is just to build up our water. There is a pretty distinctive reflection come across from where the sun directly paths out to the horizon, to the foreground. We're just going to build this up with a little bit of a gradient. Start by marking out the line where the sun travels, and then we'll just go from the lighter areas in the center and gradiate itself to the darker edges. Oh yeah, out of curiosity, how do you spell the word gray? Do you use an A? Do you use an E? Leave me a comment which way you spell it, where you're from. Out of curiosity, I've always spelled it with an A, but some people spell it with an E. While you're down in the comments section, go ahead and click that like button. Hit subscribe if you hadn't. Hit the notification bell if you are subscribed so you know when the next video is coming out. On to round 2 of the modeling phase. So during this phase, I generally like to sure up our color selections. Just kind of bring about the colors that we're going to finalize for our scene. We're going to sure up some of our shapes and the directions of the water flow and everything that you want to see in the scene. It's going to be during this phase that we're going to model everything out to exactly how we want it for the final scene. It's not a whole lot to talk about during this phase, as we're just kind of shoring up what we've already laid down with the block hand. So I'll go ahead and let it play out, and then we'll pick up where the details begin. And I'll give you my thoughts on how we detail this painting out. And finally, round 3, detailing. Probably the most fun out of any of the phases, as you get to plug in those real emphasized pieces of the painting. This is one of those areas where in this particular piece, I'm actually going to go outside of our color scope, our palette that we began with, and I'm going to add our far end titanium white and the opposite end ivory black. This is really going to make these pieces pop, and I'll point out where I use them as we go along. That being said, you're really going to want to use these two far end spectrum colors to a minimum, because they're really going to stand out above the rest of our palette. As with this sunlit area, the clouds here, a little bit of titanium white really makes them pop off the screen. And same will go for the ivory black, and I'll bring that up as we come across it. Here, while not completely titanium white, we are using a lighter mixture around our sun area. Later on, we'll come in with some pure titanium white to really bring emphasis to the sun. But we want to start lightening up this area to demonstrate that there's clouds in the area, but they're in front of our brightest area, which will be the sun. From here, we've gotten to a place where we're pretty happy with about 2/3 of the painting. Now all we need to do is work on the bottom half, or the bottom third of the painting where the water exists. As you can see, I'm starting to bring the direct sunlight down into the water. We're just going to gradually detail this area out until we've got a concise directional path of where that sun's reflecting against the water, moving its way outwards. As we get towards the outward side of the water, we're going to start to add that titanium black to bring about the details. One of the key areas to process while we're painting through this area is the understanding that We do have a chop or a ripple on the water as that wave pattern is coming across. Our reflection is not going to be one solid mass going straight through. So as you can see, I'm skipping some thin areas. As you get towards the horizon, it's a lot thinner and less area in between. As you pull towards the foreground, there's going to be much more area in between the reflections. This is going to give us that feel and effect of the waves coming in. The reflection isn't one big bold pass across. It's going to skip where the waves are coming in. Now, because we've restrained from using our high-end colors, titanium white and the ivory black, applying the ivory black to these clouds are really going to pull them forward. It's going to darken them as in reference to our scene, and it's really going to make these clouds pop off the picture as well as when we add it to the water. All that's left after adding our final details is to sign the painting and call it complete. Now, this may not be the end for many artists. Some may go on to color glaze over top of it, but for now it's debatable what I'll do. I hope you have enjoyed this look into the Grisaille painting technique, the versatility it brings to the table, and I do recommend you give it a try next time you're setting out to do a painting. Until next time, happy painting, and as always, if you're not subscribed to the channel, click the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment.